Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. So just to let you know, the session is being recorded. We'll open up things for discussion, as well as asking some of the advanced questions that we have already received. Audience members can ask questions at any time. Just type them in the box at the foot of your screen, and then we'll direct them to the panel. The webinar is expected to last for about an hour, and afterwards it will also be available on demand, and you get an email to let you know when the recording is ready for viewing. So thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to be here. So let's get this going. So we're all parts of the Dairy Data Warehouse team. Let's start with a brief overview of who Dairy Data Warehouse is. Fernando, would you like to give us a brief intro, please, of the company and yourself?
Yes, thank you very much, Alexia. First of all, a pleasure to be part of this event. Really looking forward to it. And yes, as Alexia introduced me, my name is Fernando Maceris. I'm the Managing Director of Dairy Data Warehouse. We are a Dutch company that is fully dedicated to provide data services in the dairy industry. We have a suite of solutions that are addressed for farmers, dairy farmers, of course, consultant dairy advisors, and also for companies that are providing services and solutions to dairy farmers. In this case today, the event is fully dedicated to one of our farmer solutions that is called Predict a Guardian.
Thank you so much, Fernando. So a brief intro of myself. So I am Alexia, and I'm the person responsible for marketing at Dairy Data Warehouse. So Armin, would you like to give a brief introduction of yourself, please?
Thanks, Alexia. Well, pleasure to be here. I'm a veterinarian, and I'm also interested in data science, and that's why I'm working with a team of data scientists here at Dairy Data Warehouse. And Fernando has already mentioned, today we'll be speaking about a product for farmers. It's called Predict a Guardian. And the scientists in my team, they have worked out all the algorithms and the AI models inside the tool. And the tool is designed for farmers who want to run targeted prevention programs for transition cows and save money in using the investment for prevention in a very concentrated fashion for the cows that have the highest risk.
Thank you so much for that, Armin. JP, please, if you could give a little bit more intro and maybe a little bit more introduction about Predict a Guardian and how their farmers can use this.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone, and greetings from the east of England in Suffolk. Sadly, we don't have a huge amount of cows over here, but thankfully I'm an Irish dairy farmer's son. So I suppose I'm a part of the commercial team with Dairy Data Warehouse, and have been working along with Armin and Fernando and Alexia, really in trying to, I suppose, see the opportunities that are available with farmers using Predict a Guardian, especially, helping them to identify cows that are at risk during the transition period.
Excellent. Thank you. So yes, as you can gather today, so we shall be speaking mostly about transition cow diseases, their impact on milk production, and how you can use your data that is already available for your own farm to your advantage to manage your dry herd management. Right, so let's get going with some of the questions that were also asked from some of you when you did your registrations. So the first question is for you, Fernando. So transition cow diseases, as we all know, are a problem in many dairy farms, and they also can go unnoticed by vets or farmers. And we get also a lot of people asking us at times about the negative energy balance in the transition period. The question is this happening in all dairy cows, and why is this a problem in some animals?
Thank you, Alexia. Yes, this is not happening, of course, in all dairy cows, but it is quite a common situation, especially in cows that are high producers, okay? So basically, something that is very well known is that the transition cow period, it is the most critical part of the whole lactation of every dairy animal. And what is happening over there is a massive change from the animal being dry, and after calving to start producing great amount of milk, okay, that has a lot of energy demands on that animal that in many cases is not able to be compensated because after calving, cows normally have a reduced dry matter intake. So as a consequence of that, animals are normally mobilizing a lot of fat to be able to compensate their energy needs. This is, of course, super well documented, very well known, and nothing new, okay? However, there are, in many cases, many animals that are undetected of suffering metabolic diseases in a subclinical basis, okay? One of them being the most common one, it is ketosis. Those animals that are suffering of this very important subclinical disease are then producing less milk, they are more susceptible to other diseases, and also they have less probability to get pregnant, and also are more exposed due to immunodeficiency to other diseases.
Okay, thank you for that, Fernando. Armin, this next question is for you. What do you think could be potential signs in herds to watch out for that could mean the farm is suffering from transition cow diseases?
Well, as Fernando said, it's a normal process for a cow to mobilize fat and lose some weight also in the first 40, 60 days of lactation. However, in some animals that can lead to metabolic problems. And they manifest themselves in disease, such as ketosis, but then they have many knock-on effects, in particular on fertility. So herds with a potential to improve their transition cow management and to benefit from Predictor Guardian and the transition cow risk management program, a prevention program, would be herds that struggle with fertility. So that could be herds that have calving intervals maybe over 410, 420 days. That would be herds that have many cows that take 3-4 cycles to conceive. So that would result maybe in an average days in milk over 180, 190 days. And that would often be also visible in high body condition scoring scores, either at dry off because they run long lactations and many cows convert a lot of the energy they eat into body fat rather than milk. And often these cows then calve also in with a high body condition score. So they would be animals that have more than 3, 3.2, 3.5 at calving. So these would be some signs. So herds that have struggled with fertility and have these problems getting their cows pregnant, that would be classical signs, and have, of course, as a consequence, then long lactations. That would be classical risk factors.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Armin. So the next question is for you, JP. So we often get comments that their farmers are happy with their milk production and feel that their cows are reaching their maximum milk yield. However, studies have also shown that there are many cases of undiagnosed transition cow diseases in the herds. JP, from your experience, how common do you find this to be true?
I think what's really interesting is obviously what we've seen with farmers that have been using the Predictor Guardian tool is a lot of them have realized that maybe, for example, ketosis has gone undiagnosed on their farm, as in it's not showing up in the sense of calling out the vet, or that it's subclinical. But I mean, from the point of view, if you look at some UK studies, that frequently, let's say, freshly calved cows there's a 30% more likely that they're potential of getting ketosis. And I suppose if that is the case, if that number running at that number, that it does make sense, to have kind of a targeted, transition cow risk management on your farm. And I suppose that's where we see predictive gardening kind of works extremely well, supporting those protocols on the farm.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that, Vicky. Armin, this next question is for you. Would you say that prevention would be better than cure? So how can a dairy farmer make this decision for his or her herd?
Okay, it's a common saying. It is from an animal welfare perspective, of course, and a peace of mind perspective, always better to prevent than cure. That's clear. From an economic perspective, prevention is not always cheaper than cure. Let's say that depends really a lot on how frequent is the disease. And how expensive is it? So if there's a herd that has very severe cases of ketosis, for instance, or mastitis or any other transition cow disease, they come with a heavy cost. Then in most cases, it's a lot cheaper to prevent rather than encountering this heavy disease cost. Also, if the disease is very frequent, prevention pays off. Whereas if it's only a few cases a year, then it might be actually a better approach from an economic perspective to just deal with those cases as they arise. Concretely speaking, for ketosis, there is plenty of literature that has looked at that intensively. And any herd that has more than 30% incidence of ketosis will benefit economically from a prevention scheme. Now, there are different ways of running those prevention schemes. They have different costs. We cannot dive into the detail of all of those, but that is well documented that herds with a 30% and higher incidence of ketosis, they can pretty much always benefit from a prevention scheme they run. So for them, prevention is always cheaper than cure. On the other end of the spectrum, herds that have only a 5 or 10% incidence, for them usually it's a better return on their investment and time if they focus on treating. The interesting segment are all the herds that are in between, that have anywhere between 10, 15 and 30, 35%. Because for those herds, to make prevention work economically, they need to know what cows are at the highest risk if they don't want to run a blanket prevention scheme and treat all the animals in the herd preventatively. So for those, artificial intelligence, and Predictor Guardian is using artificial intelligence, is very good in identifying cows at risk and pointing out to the farmer which animals should actually get preventive attention.
Okay, thank you. It's very interesting. So also from what we've discussed so far, and also mentioning undiagnosed transition diseases, maybe we can understand that on most farms, once they start using Predictor Guardian, they may notice that they may get a lot of alarms, more than expected, in fact. And how many alarms per month would a farm expect? And perhaps what is the best way of dealing with these alarms? Fernando, can you please guide us with this question?
Sure. So it's very difficult to say how many alarms the model will generate in every herd, because it will depend on each single herd and their conditions, right? As Armin was saying, we have a model that is utilizing artificial intelligence, analyzing parameters that are measured on the cows, like milk production, like the reproduction events, and so on and so on. And this is done to be able to predict the risk of an animal to get 4 known transition cow diseases. Those are ketosis, milk fever, retained placenta, and displaced abomasum. So the number of alarms that we are going to get, it will depend on, of course, the incidence of these diseases in that specific herd. Of course, if I have a lot of animals that are suffering of that condition, we will get more alarms, okay? And obviously, then on how we are configuring the tool, because it's totally adjustable to what also to the needs of what the farmer would like to get, or how many alarms the farmer would like to get. So, of course, the disease of the farm, as I said, but then which are the diseases that are activated to work with. Maybe a farmer doesn't want to work with the 4 diseases and only want to work with 1 or 2, obviously. And also, it will depend on the sensitivity that that specific farmer with his consultant are adjusting in the tool to be configured. So, meaning that I could have a very sensitive situation where there will be more alarms created, and a more specific situation where I program on purpose less sensitivity, and therefore we're getting less alarms. So in that way, we can adjust also the number of alarms that we would like to be able to have on a certain period of time, like it can be a week or a month or whatever time period we would like to analyze.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. So this is the next question is a question that we get quite frequently, actually, and this is directed towards you, Armin. So based on this, what we've been discussing with alarms and the Predicta Guardian and how it works, did you measure how accurate Predicta Guardian is in predicting ketosis and the other transition cow diseases? Does this mean that a farmer can expect many false alarms, and how would they deal with them in that case?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we measure, of course, accuracy and also other performance indicators, so the sensitivity, the specificity, and the algorithm itself and the model itself is not very accurate. So there is quite a sizable number of false alarms. The question is more in this case, what delivers an economic positive outcome for the farmer. And so it is an optimization tool, really, that finds the right balance between the number of alarms, and they include also false alarms, hence cows that will never get ketosis but still get prevention treatment, to understand what is the best number of alarms to receive economically the best outcome. So the accuracy is depending, of course, of the situation in the herd, but between 60 and 70%. And we've experimented for quite a few years now with different data sets, and we run a large amount of data through the model. That is roughly what the data that goes into the model allows in terms of accuracy. So what data is the model using? It's using the milking data, the fertility data, the dry-off data, and so on from the previous lactation. And then we predict 6 weeks before, 6 to 8 weeks before the disease actually is going to happen. So there's a long window, and that is influencing how accurate we can also predict. However, the 60 to 70% accuracy is actually largely enough to produce an economic positive outcome compared to, for instance, not treating at all or treating all the animals. In most herds, with an incidence between 10 and 30%, this approach, the Predicta Guardian model, will deliver an economic benefit. How big? That will depend, of course, as Fernando said, and JP, on how frequent the disease is, how expensive. But that is, we've seen that in many cases that we are able to produce a positive outcome using the model to decide what animals should receive treatment. And you asked that, Alexia, in the second part of your question, what should farmers do when they receive an alarm? Well, first, that is very important, of course, to consider here in this round here. There should be a clear protocol what prevention program is to be implemented for animals that receive a ketosis alert or a mastitis alert. The veterinarian, for instance, would be an excellent partner to discuss that with, to agree on a prevention scheme. And so when the alarms happen, what should be done? And also, this prevention program should then always be applied to the animal when there is an alarm. Only then, if the user is compliant with those alarms and does actually act on them, will they also experience the economic benefit.
Thank you. That's very nicely explained. So the next question is for you, JP. So most common herd management software already send out ketosis alarms. In what way are Predicta Guardian alarms different to that? Also, maybe something we have not discussed is how do the farmers and the vets receive the alarms?
Yeah, I suppose one of the real beauties about Predicta Guardian is, Armin's already said, is, you know, you're able to get an alarm, 6 weeks before, let's say, that animal, that potential disease might happen to that animal. So very simply, when you're drying off your animal, you're going to get an alert, whether that cow is at risk to one of the diseases within Predicta Guardian. So it means that you potentially can set it up that if you want to get an alarm on a daily basis because you're drying off cows every day, or actually if you do it once a week, you can set it up that you just get an alert once a week. And again, another great thing is, look, it can come via a WhatsApp, or you can get it on an email. And if you other members on your team, you can add them in. So you know, if you've got your herd manager or if you've got your vet, and you want them to have access to that information, so they're seeing the list of animals that the alerts are being created for. So it's very simple in that sense. And I suppose the real great thing about it is it's giving you an opportunity to do something before it actually happens. Let's say, as in a day or two, you know, when you start to notice that that animal is actually, you know, suffering.
Okay. So thank you so much, JP, for that. And the next question is also for you, but also, if I understand correctly, what we're saying is that Predicta Guardian also acts as a prevention rather than with other ketosis alarms where they will receive it when the animal is already sick. Did I understand properly in this?
Yeah, so obviously, receiving the alarms, and sorry, you dipped out a bit. I think it was
Okay.
can you just...
Yes, in the sense that Predicta Guardian is like a prevention tool. It is a prevention tool, but of course with other alarms from herd management software, this is the animal is already sick when they receive the alarms, correct?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we can't comment on other softwares on how, let's say, their alarms are and what they use to create those alarms. But I think the beauty about this is, you know, we're taking preventative measures so the animal doesn't actually get sick. And I think that's a great thing, really, when you're looking at it from potentially the more liters of milk in your tank, but just basically from the health of a cow. And obviously we all want healthy cows. So the beauty is, if you're drying off your cow, you know, you either get an alert, this animal is at risk. You then have obviously your protocols, and you can utilize your protocols. So hopefully that animal doesn't get sick. I think that's obviously from us where, you know, the whole kind of prevention piece around Predicta Guardian is where we're really seeing more and more farmers are really interested in utilizing the tool as part of their transition cow protocols.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Maybe, Alexia, an additional comment from my side in that respect is that Predicta Guardian, as we are saying, it is a risk management tool that it's been releasing the alarm when it is programmed, but it's calculated a dry off for all the animals, okay? So it's the risk of suffering the transition cow disease on the next lactation. So it's not running on animals that are on lactation, okay? So that's a reason that we are saying, well, if you are in many cases detecting a day before or 2 days before, that there are plenty of tools doing that, and they're fine. I mean, that's something to deal with animals that are already on lactation for a treatment of still can be subclinical case, but the also clinical case. In the case of, again, predict, I'm repeating it right now, it is that we are calculating a dry off, and then for what potential is going to happen with that animal. So the farmer and the consultant can plan what to do preventative to avoid those things to happen.
Perfect.
Yeah, maybe Alexei, since I think it's a crucial point, and I can only underline what Fernando said. I like to compare it with an insurance concept. Really, that's more or less what it is. It's a bit like a car insurance. If you buy or drive an expensive car, you will have, and you have an inexperienced driver, you will probably select for an option where you have full coverage, because you think the risk is high and the money at stake is a lot. And if you have an old car with a very experienced driver that has hardly ever crashed, well, maybe then you can afford to, you assume the risk is low and you can afford with a lower coverage. And it's very similar here. That is exactly what Predict the Guardian does. It will look at the last lactation. When did this animal conceive? What was the lactation curve like? When did it peak? What is the shape of the lactation curve overall? And so on. It will do that like a very, very, very experienced farm manager might be able to do. It will do that with every dry cow, and it will say, well, here's the risk, and I pick for you the right level of coverage. And that's basically what Predict the Guardian does, knowing that it's only accurate to a certain amount. And that is the same what an insurance will do. They will have a model that calculates the risk and what provides the economically the best outcome. And we have chosen a very similar approach to that. So it's a transition cow risk insurance program, as long as you then also stick to it and follow the alarms. That is, of course, and implement the protocol. That's, of course, important.
That's a nice, thank you so much, Armin. It's a nice way of putting it where people can see more like in their daily life as well, so they can understand it in a different context. So JP, the next question is for you. Once a dairy farmer receives an alarm, how do you feel is the best way for him or her to tackle this and incorporate it in their transition cow management? Maybe you lost JP there for a second.
Seems he can't hear us.
Okay, we'll go on to the next question, and we'll see how we can get him back in the meantime. Okay, so Armin, this next question is for you, please. What is the cost benefits of utilizing Predict the Guardian as a tool?
The cost benefit depends. I think we elaborated a little bit on it already. Depends, of course, what is the situation in your farm. So factors influencing the cost benefits are: what is the disease incidence? What is the cost, the estimated cost of the disease? What is the estimated cost of the prevention? And how accurate is the tool or the method you are applying and using? So those parameters would be relevant. For herds that have an estimated incidence of transition cow disease, of ketosis, for instance, as mentioned before, between 5 to 10% on the lower end and 30% and higher, for herds that run in that bracket, Predict the Guardian in conjunction with a successful prevention scheme at least running economic models will almost always provide an economic benefit. And that can, of course, it depends what you compare it to. So if we would compare it, for instance, in a herd with a 30% incidence and a disease cost of ketosis of 150 pounds roughly, that is what literature provides us, 150, 200 pounds roughly per case of ketosis, and the prevention cost of 30 euros, then if you run Predictor Guardian compared to not doing anything, you will create a benefit between 8 and 10 pounds per year per cow. So that is roughly the number. Obviously, that can be a lot more if the disease is more expensive, or can be less if the disease is less expensive. So that depends a little bit on the herd situation. But these are roughly the figures. So I would say for herds, and that is true for most herds in the UK, that they run an incidence anywhere in that bracket I mentioned, they are highly likely to experience an economic benefit.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. JP, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can now, Alexia. I can't see you, but I can hear you. Sorry, really bad internet connection.
Okay, no problem. So yes, I have a question dedicated for you, please. So once a dairy farmer receives an alarm, how do you feel is the best way for him or her to tackle this and also incorporate it in their transition cow management?
Well, I suppose the best thing really is obviously to discuss that with their team, as in, with their suitably qualified person, in the sense of what is their protocol and how they want to kind of action that for that animal, what sort of treatment. And obviously there's also as well their vet or their nutritionist that they can consult with. I suppose from our point of view, Predictor Guardian, it's about, providing that alert on the animal that's at risk. And then obviously then the dairy farmer then making a decision on, okay, what action do they take dependent on what that disease risk is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And can you give us also some insight into the cost of using Predictor Guardian?
Yeah, so based on, let's say, a 300 cow herd in the UK, you're looking at a fee of 18p per month per cow. So that roughly equates to about £2.20 per cow per year. So yeah, just under 18 pence a month per cow for to basically run Predictor Guardian. And again, I suppose from our point of view, the great thing would be to get some more UK dairy farmers utilising the tool. So we'd really love to hear from them, really.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So a lot of people have been asking, a lot of the live audience have been asking to have a look into the Predictor Guardian's web application and what it looks like. So Armin, if you can kindly show us, please, and maybe show us a few examples from some farms where they use it and what can dairy farmers expect, please.
No problem. Let me see whether we can get it going here. Okay. Right. Can you see that, Alexia? Is that working, Alexia? Yes, great. Okay. So here I navigated to the web application. So as you can see in the top, Predictor dairydatawarehouse.com. So that's the website that will be available to any user who has connected to Predictor. We can maybe speak later a little bit how that all works, the connection, and how you get the farm data to our platform and so on. It's actually very straightforward. Here now we have used the data to show you an example. That's actually a UK herd. What the tool does, thanks to AI, it calculates once a month the estimated disease incidence, because it's always very hard for farmers and their consultants to really get a grip on how frequent is the disease in my herd. There are, of course, diagnostic ways. Ketosis, you can make measurements in milk, for instance, but it's quite work intensive, right? To do that reliably, you will need to measure several times in the first 14 days in milk. But then, of course, you can, and that is definitely the best way of doing it. But we have here, we can use artificial intelligence to give us at least an estimation that is not, of course, to the decimal accurate. But here is a herd that falls into the 30% bracket. And there's also some calculation for some of the other diseases. Predictor Guardian can be used, as Fernando has mentioned. So is milk fever, displaced upper meson, retained placenta. These are also lactation incidences. So for milk fever in this herd, our model estimates that 5%, so 5 out of 100 lactations will have a case of milk fever. And here it's also nice to see, okay, this herd, if you look at its calving interval, as I mentioned earlier with the risk factors, so here many cows conceive after days 113 milk, resulting then in long calving intervals. So the green bar is kind of the optimum spectrum. Anything that's going above that, above 410 days would potentially pose a problem. And here we see the herd is exceeding that. And if we then look a little bit how that works in terms of alarms. So these are now alarm tiles for the herds, for the animals in this herd. So once a cow approaches dry off, our model starts running on the data, and it will produce alarms for the respective animals that are at risk. So here, some animals are at risk for milk fever, for ketosis, or for several of them. Ketosis is usually the trigger of most of those diseases, and often animals that suffer from ketosis then also have a higher predisposition for milk fever and other transition cow diseases. And then we can look maybe very quickly at one of those animals. What's interesting to see, so in these tiles above here, what we've done is of all the animals where the model decides they are at risk, we have aggregated the data. How long do these animals take to conceive? When do they peak? How high do they peak? And how many disease cases do they have in the first 42 days in lactation? And you can see here very quickly that, yes, indeed, the risk animals are the ones that take long to conceive. Okay, the days to peak, 57, that is actually nothing, that's nothing unusual, that's to be expected. But we can see that many of them have disease issues in the first 42 days. So very quickly, as a user, whether you're a farmer or a consultant, see, okay, there are risk animals in this herd, and we flag them which ones they are. And then you can also drill down to these animals and look a bit further. So now here we have an animal from the risk list. And you can see, okay, these green lines, these are disease cases. The farmer didn't give us, let's say, a specific label, so I don't know exactly what the cow had, but okay, there was a disease event in days in milk 24, another disease event in days in milk 39, and then the animal needed 3 inseminations until the last one here, days in milk 111. So the model has access to the lactation curve. These gray dots are all individual milkings we get from the milk meter. It has access to the insemination dates. And based on this information, it will calculate the risk percentage. And that will eventually then result in a risk alarm or the animal is at low risk and will not be flagged. Okay, it was a bit long. I apologize, but I guess that gives kind of a rough overview what we are talking about.
It's very interesting, and that's what people are asking for in the audience, actually. So thank you for that, Armin. Very well explained. Hope it gives some more depth into the whole model and how it works.
Maybe
So,
if I, sorry to Alex, just to mention, so that's of course the website it's meant for, let's say, more in-depth analysis. The alarms, I guess we will come to that also, but they can of course also be received via email, on their phone, via WhatsApp. This is really, the website is more to understand the situation in the herd, but for the day-to-day, of course, they can have it on their mobile phone.
okay, so what you're saying is they don't need to access the website daily. They look at the alarms daily when they decide to receive them, and to drill down and get more information, then they will look. Okay, thank you. The next question, JP, is for you. So if a farmer is interested in Predicta Guardian, what is the data needed in their software to get them going?
Yeah, as Armin's already highlighted, obviously, milk data, so milk production data. So we can work with either milk meter data, so whatever is coming off of your milking equipment software. And also we can work with milk recording data, so as in CIS or NMR in that sense. One of the things obviously that we also need is we do need reproduction information to run the model. So I suppose the key things is if you've either got milk meter data and reproduction data, we can run the model. Or obviously if you've got milk recording data, we can also run the model as well. So it's very flexible in that way, and very easy to work with the relevant softwares that are available in the UK, in the sense of the major main ones that most farmers are using to manage their herds currently. And obviously, if there is more data available, like health data, like as Armin showed there, that example of health events, that again is more information. We can obviously provide more insight. So again, one of the things is obviously the more information that's available on that farm, on that dairy herd, the more in some ways we can sweat that data, or we can put it to more use for that farmer. And I suppose that is a great thing, with Predicta Guardian, in that you just saw there from that cow, you could see its lactation, you could see when it was inseminated, and also health events, as well as obviously getting your alert that this animal is at risk to disease.
Great, thank you. So they're really making use of all the information that's already there, really.
Totally.
Great. So Fernando, this question is for you, please. What are the technical requirements for using Predicta Guardian? If there's any other things that are required for them to be able to start, if there's any installation.
Yes, it's pretty simple. It is not required to have any dedicated software or any hardware. So to get going with Predicta Guardian, it is only required to have a computer where the most popular herd management softwares are connectable to the tool, and that computer needs to have internet. Okay. Basically, from the technical requirement, that's it. What we need to do then, when the farmer wants to get going with the program, is obviously to connect his computer to the data warehouse. That is done by the installation of a very small software at the computer that is able to collect the data from the software the farmer is utilizing on a daily basis, to then be able to collect the data and go into the DW cloud, where the artificial intelligence model is running. And then this is happening every 24 hours. Okay. The data is collected every 24 hours, and automatically is the day that animal is get dry off, is generating a risk analysis for those specific diseases. And those alarms are then, as the guys were saying before, delivered to the farmer in the way that the farmer has decided to receive them. It could be by SMS, by email, or by WhatsApp. But the technical requirements basically are just very simple, just internet connection to one of the most normal herd management software farmers are utilizing. The system is based on a subscription base. So as I said, it is just can be started and stopped at any moment in time.
Okay, so it's not related to any particular herd management software?
No, exactly. It can be different herd management softwares are supported.
Okay, and also in line with this question, because you mentioned data a lot, and we get a lot of this question as well from farmers. What happens to their data?
Well, their data is obviously shared with us for being able to use these calculations. Okay, farmer is completely in control on their data, so they are able, obviously, to decide what is happening with it. Okay, so basically that's it. At any moment in time that a potential farmer would like to stop the subscription, that happens in a very simple way, and it is executed, and then the data is not uploaded anymore.
So they are still the owners of the data?
Absolutely. That's the core principle of DDW working. Farmers are the owners of the data, and they control what's happening with their data in our platform.
Great. And also there's information on the website on what is done with the data and all the how it's all protected, so to put farmers' minds at ease.
Yes, that is absolutely reachable in our webpage.
Perfect.
And also just to say, Alexia, there's a support team there for onboarding. As everyone has said, it's a very simple process. And also myself, I'm based here in the UK, so happy to chat or support with anyone if they, have any questions or just in the onboarding process as well.
Okay, great. So the farmers have an after-sales service as well. Great, thank you so much. Armin, the next question is for you.
Yes, maybe just to say that also, and the system is running already in the UK on UK farms. So that is not that we are starting here from scratch. It's a product that's out there, right? So
good point, Armin. Very good point.
Tried and tested. So I suppose some of you might be aware, so at the moment we're running a free trial on Predictor Guardian. So Armin, why would you say a farmer should trial Predictor Guardian on their farm?
I think the farms that can benefit most is the ones that really fall into the category of risk factors we mentioned earlier. So the ones that would like to improve their fertility, because in many, many herds, they have not poor fertility because they are not able to observe estrus or inseminate correctly. In many cases, the cows are just not able to express their fertility or not able to conceive. So fighting ketosis, running a successful prevention scheme, it's often really a big improvement, and they can often benefit from that. So all the farms where the cows take 3-4 cycles to conceive, that struggle to keep their cows in an appropriate body condition score, they would be generally farms that can benefit. Maybe one thing I would like to add here is prevention, meaning identifying an animal at risk at dry-off, and then giving it preventative attention, is of course only a plaster, let's say. The root cause, so the accumulation of these risk factors, the animal has conceived late, the animal has grown too big, they are already there. They cannot be made to disappear, right? So what Predictor Guardian, however, can do is it can flag these animals, and the farmer can apply preventative measures. At the same time, Predictor Guardian can also help them be aware of, hey, there are root causes in your herd that can cause economic losses for you. And they are linked to fertility, long lactations, and they often reside early in the last lactation. So it's just what I think we want to help with Predictor Guardian is to, let's say, not only focus on the animals once they have ketosis, because then it's really very, very late in the process, and that can, in most cases, not be corrected completely anymore. Shift to prevention, and yes, prevention is only kind of dealing with the risk factors the animal has already accumulated, so need to be treated with, need to be prevented. But then also, of course, we want to help farmers look before that and address the root causes. So that would be the profile of farms that can benefit.
Perfect. Thank you, Armin. JP, in line with the free trial as well, is there a commitment offer, or can they try it and if they decide they don't like it, is there a protocol behind this, please?
No, not at all. Very simply, if farmers want to onboard and trial Predictor Guardian, there's no commitment. We're a bit like Netflix. You can sign up for the month, and if you don't see any films you like, or it's not relevant for your herd, well then absolutely there's no commitment of anything like a year. But what we have seen is that the farmers that do sign on and use the tool end up continuing using the tool because they can see the benefit of it forming part of their overall protocol for their transition cows.
Okay, perfect. And also, so even if they do sign up, it's always month on month, correct? So if they decide to...
Correct, yeah. Yeah, we basically just take a, when I say invoice, we basically, it's just credit card details. You just pop in your details and we just take a payment once a month.
Perfect. And so the next question is dedicated to you, Armin. Would you like to let us know also what's inspired the whole team at BBW to create Predictor Guardian, and how the tool has been modeled? If you'd like to give us some more detail into that, please. Maybe with some examples, if possible.
Okay, sure. Well, we started out with the question, well, so many industries benefit from artificial intelligence. If you look at finance, retail, they have been using artificial intelligence for a long time, and now they have really reaped large benefits. Nothing really works without any artificial intelligence in those industries anymore. And we were wondering, well, why can't we do that on dairy farms? Because there are many, many problems that could benefit from it. And so what artificial intelligence basically, how is that done is, there is a learning phase. So we present lactation curves, and not only one or two, hundreds of thousands, and ideally millions of lactation curves to the model. And we know from these lactation curves what was their ketosis risk in the next lactation. We did that with a measurement of a specific enzyme, BHB that's called, that can be measured in milk. And we use those, what we call labels. So we take the lactation plus the labels, the information, has the animal been sick or not in the following lactation? And all these lactations we feed into the model, and the model learns like an experienced farm manager who has seen hundreds of cows, thousands of cows, and gets a feeling for it. Well, the model can learn in a similar way and better, because it is exposed to millions of lactations and not just a few hundred, like you can be in a herdsman's lifetime. And it knows from the risk factors, it knows how they're correlated, how they're linked to the disease. So that's how we make it. So now the model has learned. We freeze it, as we call it. So now it can apply what it's learned in school, so to say, to any herd and any lactation that comes its way. So now when a farm connects to our database, to our platform, then we don't need to wait till it learns. It has learned already the ability to classify and calculate the risk for a given lactation, like a very, very experienced farm manager, if you wish. So that's how we make these models.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I think that almost brings us towards the end of our webinar. So we will show you in a minute as well where to contact us if you want to get started. And yes, the free trial is available. So you can contact us on the email address and mobile number that we will, and landline that we will show you. We'll also be sending an email, however. So we'll be sending an email after the webinar to all the people who registered, and there'll be a link there, and you can follow the link and you can leave your details and we'll get in touch. Well, that's all the time we had for tonight. I hope it was very insightful and beneficial. And I would like to thank you, Fernando, Armin, and JP for your time and expertise tonight. The webinar recording, as we said, will be available soon on demand, and you'll get an email to let you know when it's ready for viewing. I hope that this time has been interesting this evening, and it has left you with a greater understanding of the topic and our passion in Predict a Guardian, and how we're promoting sustainability and animal welfare and higher milk production. So yes, so thank you all of you, and on behalf of myself and the panelists, a huge thank you and good night.
Thank you.